Hello everyone, this is ULTRALAVOS, rating Bill and Ted's excellent video game adventure. Let's get into this and see where it falls. This game gets a lot of hate. Understandably, it's a little hard to figure out, but let's see where it goes on my scale. Get some music playing in the background from the soundtrack of this game, which I wonder how I'll feel about it. So let's start with unfairness. There's a little bit in this game. Sometimes the way the map scrolls and trying to jump between paths, you'll just jump right into someone trying to arrest you, especially in the later levels. Sometimes you'll get knocked into, bumped down from someone you just talked to. Other than that, though, I guess the hints also aren't the best. So, I mean, it's beatable. It's not a huge frustration once you realize what you're doing. I'd say it gets a 7. I mean, there's not a lot of horribleness as far as unfairness once you get it down. I mean, you saw in my playthrough that there were some times I got arrested that irritated me, but I'd say it's a 7. Not the best, but definitely not the worst. Level design. Well, the maps are slightly different. There are some variations. The different themes to the levels, that's always good. They do reuse the medieval level with just different sprites. They did put warps on these maps, which is cool. But I'm gonna have to give it a 6. I mean, you can tell they put some work into it, but not a whole lot. So, it could have been a lot better. We'll go with a 6. Theme / story. Story is, I mean, it's Bill and Ted. They have to do some stuff through history to make sure wild stallions become a band and they can save the world. So, at least they followed that. Now, I do really enjoy the dialogue sections, which I didn't show off a lot, especially towards the end of the game, because it would just take too long for each video to go through and talk to all the people and get all the different dialogues. But if you all have this game or can find it at a reasonable price, or, you know, happen to have it on an NES Classic, the dialogues there's some that's pretty humorous. Theme-wise, they did a good job, like having different themes to the levels. I mean, nothing crazy, but a 6 or a 7. I'm thinking maybe a 7 just because of the dialogue. Yeah, no, we're gonna give it a 6. If there was more to the story than just every level was the same thing, yeah, I'll go with a 6. Reliable controls. Now, for the most part, the controls are reliable. A is your jump, B throws whatever weapon you have. You got your start menu, and they work with the exception of... And it's not so much the controls, it's... You don't know where you can jump far. I'll give it a 7. It's, should I give it an 8? I think I'll give it an 8. You know, once you get the controller down, the only issue you'll have is from jumping off of grass. You just don't know how far you'll jump, but it's even pretty decent with throwing the items. Like, if you tap it, you throw it short distance. If you hold it down, you'll throw it a longer distance. So that is one thing. The controls did work. I mean, it's isometric, so, I mean, like Solstice and Immortal and other games, you gotta know Qbert up is gonna move you. Is that gonna go up and to the right, up and to the left? But, yeah, it goes up and to the right in this game, but it's consistent. And even doing the canoe and the horse riding, it's good. I'll give it an 8. Awesome factor. Well, this isn't going to get too high of a rating. When I first got this game, I was thinking this is going to be so awesome. I loved the Bill and Ted movies. When I opened this, I was like, I don't even think I knew there was a Bill and Ted game whenever I got it. And I was just like, oh wow, they made this into a video game. And I hadn't had a lot of experience with bad video, like I'd played The Goonies 2, I loved that game, that was made from a movie. I hadn't really played the Home Alone games, so I didn't know. The Karate Kid game I had played, and even though that's not the greatest game, I still have good memories playing it with our neighbor who owned it. But there were some bad, like Beetlejuice was a bad one, but I think I rented that after I had gotten this game, and it was bad. And Back to the Future, I didn't care for the first one when I rented that. The second one, I kind of a guilty pleasure. I kind of enjoyed that one, but so at first I was in awe of this game, but you know, I played it and I enjoyed it, so you know, it was still pretty awesome. But it got tedious. I made my own maps and stuff, but looking back at this game, like, how awesome is it? I probably wouldn't touch this game again, I don't think, if it wasn't for the fact that I was doing an LP on it. The gameplay is not anything that you're excited about. It's, I mean, a 5, and it's only getting that 5 because it's Bill and Ted. If this didn't have Bill and Ted in it, or the dialogue, you know, that was classic, and yeah, it would be lower. So that's a 5 on that. Longevity. Well, obviously when I was a kid there was enough longevity to it that I made it through this game and beat it. It took me a little bit. Like I said, I had made my own maps and tracked where the bait could be. So I wanted to get through the game. And I think the thing that made me want to is, you know, this was a time before the internet or anything like that. You couldn't go on there and just watch the endings. And I liked how when you beat the levels, they got better and better at playing their music and stuff. And I think I was already playing the guitar back then. So, I enjoyed things with guitars. And I wanted to go through and beat it. Now, as far as long-term longevity, no. You're not wanting to go back and play this. Most people probably aren't even wanting to play it all the way through. Like I had said with the, in the last category, I probably won't touch this game again. I mean, it's a possibility I could, but it's going to be a 4, and that's just because it had that longevity as a kid. But nowadays, I don't know. It gets tedious. Great idea, but implemented poorly. Accessibility. This is going to be a low one too. You don't have the manual. Good luck. Just figuring out the levels, the bait, just going through the circuits of time minigame at the beginning and knowing what to do. And then when you get to the 3rd chapter and there's no last number, you gotta just shoot into a skull. I think you'll figure out the controls pretty easy once you get into it, but if you have the manual, that helps. I had the manual. I got it in the box when I was a kid, so I had all the details that were there. So, I'm going to have to put it at a 5, because you can figure it out. If you have the manual you can figure it, but the bait and the clues, and there's no way. 5's being a little generous, but if you mess around with it enough, you can figure some stuff. I don't know, a 4 probably. Just because of the bait and trying to figure that. It took me a little bit to figure out, even with the manual. And then once I realized, oh, it's always off the road, and these clues are vague, but they give you general ideas. That's why I wrote down the maps. And it was good that they were always in the same 4 spots. But, yeah. Next, visuals and graphics. It's not an ugly game. It's not a beautiful game. The pictures of Bill and Ted and Rufus, the up-close pictures that are hand-drawn, and the title screen's great. The sprites are decent. Do I give this a 7? I'm falling between a 6 and a 7. But I'm going to go with a 7 just because I liked how detailed the pictures were during the dialogue scenes. And, you know, the people looked like people. So, I mean, none of the stages made me want to puke from looking at it, so there were some repetitive pieces and stuff, but they made the levels look different and have their own themes. I'll go with a 7. Now, originality. Now, this is going to be probably the highest rating. I'm going to go with a 9. Just because this game is unlike, now whether you think this is a good thing or a bad thing, it was unlike any other NES game, pretty much. You weren't going through just fighting people to get to the end of a level. You were going through searching for clues. It was randomly generated. So it wasn't just like you have puzzle to solve and then you're done. It would be different who you were looking for, what bait it was, which spot had the correct bait. It had your different items you could use to strategize to avoid people. It was almost, yeah, not quite like a stealth game, but you had people to talk to, clues to get. 9's a little high. I think maybe an 8. But it was a really original idea at the time. And I've played pretty much every NES game at this point. I'm sure there's a few, at least dabbled a little bit in. And by that, it could just be turning it on and hitting start and playing for like 3 minutes, but I don't think there's any other ones that I can really compare to this game. It was not implemented very well. It could have been a lot cooler, the designs and everything, but it was an original style. Like a lot of the licensed games was just like, okay, let's just make a platformer and throw these characters in there, you know, and some of them had nothing to do with the license that it was from, but this one was cool. Sound and music. I don't hate the music. I don't love the music. Some of the music I enjoy. Some of them. Let's just skip ahead to this track. I love this music. When you beat the game and the solo and everything like that, I enjoy the music in the ancient level. Ancient times. I hate it that the music stops. That's horrible. I would probably give it an 8 if it wasn't for that flaw. But I will give it a 7, because I enjoy the music when I get to hear it, and maybe I would not like it as much if it was continuous, but sound and music, going with a 7. So this game probably is getting a higher rating than a lot of people thought that it would get. So I'm going to go ahead and, there's a lot of random numbers on here. I don't feel like doing this in my head right now, so let's see what we got here. 7, 6, 6, 8, 5, 4, 4, 7, 8, and 7. 62. So this game is going to get a 6.2, which is probably my lowest game. I'm pretty sure it is on my ratings so far, which I figured it would be lower than the rest, but it's probably a better score than people may have thought it would get, or I'm sure that's way better than most people would give the game, but this is my rating, how I feel about the game, and yes, there's some bias in there with nostalgia, but, you know, a lot of these categories I try to look at, you know, objectively, so. Final rating, 6.2. I hope you all enjoyed this rating, and I will see you all next game. Oh, I want to let this finish, though. I don't know, I just love that. That was my favorite part about beating the game. Oh yeah, get that solo. Which, I mean, that was done very well for 8-bit chiptune. It reminds me of, alright, we can stop that now. That there reminds me of, I don't know if any of you all have ever heard, like, people doing rock music into 8-bit chiptunes. Man, Countdown to Extinction album by Megadeth done in 8-bit. Just every song on there feels like it should be in a Mega Man level. But, yeah. Anyways, this has been ULTRALAVOS rating Bill and Ted's Excellent Video Game Adventure. See you all next time.